Nice. Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's so good to have you here, Ira Trivedi. I think you've gone from strength to strength as one of India's premier yoginis. And it's been a pleasure to see your growth and your rise. How is Bombay treating you, Ira?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I actually got back yesterday after 1.5 months. I've been on the road. I was in the US, I was in Indonesia, I was in Europe, all for teaching. And I got back at 5 a.m. yesterday. And
Wow.
it's just, yeah, yoga since morning. And it's great, especially with International Yoga Day coming up. And again,
I
really
know
happy to
always.
connect with you, Kaveri. I was so happy that we'll be chatting. And so
Yeah, I think
really
we've
happy.
seen, I've seen you doing so well. And I remember you did the show on India Today TV. You came to our yoga day. We had a yoga day event. I remember you came there as well. It was a lot of fun. I think yoga day itself has sort of grown in prominence and
It
become what
has,
it
and
is today. Yes.
around the world, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. This time I had to come back here because there was a lot of commitments, but there was an invitation to be in New York on Times Square. And I said, wow, this is so amazing to have, to be
But
able to
you've
do
done
all of
that.
this.
You've been there, done that, right? The Times Square thing.
I haven't been at Times Square because I'm always here. There's always
Oh,
something going on in India. And so it's just, but there's always so much demand internationally that it's always before or after. But
right.
I definitely always give preference to national, whatever is
Yeah.
happening, whatever I can do in our country to support and to let yoga grow is what I really,
Right.
where really my mission lies.
So, how has it been? First, talk a little about the transition from Delhi to Mumbai. Mumbai being has a very different vibe. Of course, you're also now connected to the film industry in a way through Madhu.
Yes,
But
yes.
talk a little about that transition, and then we'll talk a little more about yoga and really where it's at currently in India.
Great. So it's been a pretty natural transition. I think Delhi and Bombay are so well connected. And just even, with so many flights and from a sense of, people who are in Delhi are often in Bombay, people who are in Bombay are often in Delhi. So I think that's been great. I think the film industry has been very, very nice to be a part of that, um, to be working with the film industry so closely with yoga and even otherwise because Madhu is involved in so many different aspects of the film industry.
Yes.
So it's been great, and I actually think it's such a beautiful world. And very healthy. I think people in the film industry have a need to be physically healthy, mentally healthy, and it's at such a high level. Like the kind of uh, physically, mentally, emotionally the kind of practice that they need is great, and I'm so happy that I can help people here with that. So it's been wonderful, and I think it's a great step. I also think that Bombay in many ways is a more cosmopolitan city than Delhi. So just the kind of people that you end up meeting here is great. Also, Bombay is very open from a spirit
Mhm.
perspective, energetically than I feel Delhi is. But I feel Delhi is more peaceful than Mumbai. That's for sure.
Mm.
I feel like
Mm.
the stillness of Delhi and the slowness of Delhi, that is missing in Bombay, where you feel always on overdrive. From the minute you step in, even if you even if you have a day off, you still feel like you got to do something because it's Bombay and things are active from the get-go. So it's a different
Yeah.
energy of the city more than anything else. But I feel like it's um it's great. What I do miss most is actually nature, more
Mm.
than Delhi or Bombay. And sometimes I feel like just if I was living in a more natural environment that's more suited to yoga, I just feel like because of environmental pollution and cities are getting
Yeah.
busier, more and more traffic, it's just becoming
Right.
tough to live in cities.
Right. But it was interesting when you talked about the kind of physical, emotional, and mental uh, I wouldn't say toughness, but resilience that is required to be in the film industry in Mumbai. I think that's something that people don't normally realize that it's seen as a place where, okay, lots of gymming and, lots of all the stuff that you need for acting happens. But there's a huge need, I think, that people now sense to be in the kind of state that yoga brings about. Talk a little about that realization and how your practice has also helped the practice of others.
So I think, first of all, because of social media, things have changed a lot. Earlier, when you say you were shooting, you were, you were shooting and you were working 10, 12 hours a day. And then you had a bit of a break in between. Now there's no break anymore because you're always on, you're always switched on, whether it's, again, because you're always kind of on the camera, the camera's in your pocket in your home. So that
Mm.
can be very, very challenging. And
Yeah.
to cope with that, it's really important to actually inculcate some form of practice, whether it's an internal practice. And that's where yoga really finds a space, right? To be able to be more internal with your mind, with your breath, with your body. And the kind of yoga that I teach, actually, and that's becoming very popular, is a practice called yin yoga. It's yin yoga, and it's a very, very slow and very restorative form of yoga. So you're not actually doing anything very, very physically active with your body. There are a lot of benefits on a bodily level, but there's also lots of benefits on a mental level because you're really holding every posture and breathing, and you're almost going into a deep state of rest in every posture. And that deep state of rest, on a scientific level, is working on your parasympathetic nervous system. And that parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and repair state, that is what's really necessary. So our nervous system has the sympathetic nervous system, which is always, which is really kicking in when there's activity. It's adrenal, it's forcing us to be present, to be active, to really be out there. Then there's a sympathetic nervous system, which is resting and repairing. And that's important for digestion. That's important for your blood pressure. That's a lot of, that's important for gut health. We're now seeing that the parasympathetic nervous system is directly related to gut health. So when there's a lot of stress, your sympathetic nervous system is always on, then gut health is, a lot of inflammation in the body. So because we're always in our sympathetic state, we're not really getting to rest and digest and repair. So yin yoga really helps that parasympathetic nervous system kick in, as does sound healing, as does working with sound, working with your breath. So what I'm actually seeing my teaching evolve into, because there's such a need, is working more with the parasympathetic nervous system than moving into, say, let's lose weight, let's use yoga to do that stuff, which is also great. Yoga works on all of that too. But what it really, really does is that repair, that work of repair, which is becoming more important world over, not just in India, but around the world.
Right.
People, and especially when it comes to that, celebrities, because
Yeah.
celebrities pay even more importance to their health because their
Yeah.
physical bodies are so important, right, for
Physical
performance.
bodies are their tools.
It's a tool. It's so
yeah,
important, right?
yeah,
They're using their physical body as a tool for their work. So they
yeah.
tend to be they tend to be really, really into finding out what's the best, what's really working.
Right.
And that they're real now, people we're all beginning to know that it's not just going to the gym that's going to really help you, but if you're always going to the gym and it's creating inflammation in your body, then you may not be able to lose weight. So sometimes you need to kind of rest and digest and work on your parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm actually seeing that a lot of my work is beginning to evolve in that way. And because it's the demand, it's what people need in today's day and age.
So that means you have to constantly research, Ira. You have to constantly
Yes,
sort of expand your area of knowledge
yes,
as well. You
absolutely.
can't just sit back and say, I know it
No,
all.
no, 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 absolutely. No, because there's even yoga, it's while it's an ancient practice and it is based on ancient principles, the world is evolving and how we use those is changing.
Right.
So even as a teacher of yoga, proponent of yoga, there's constantly evolution. It's like medical science in a way.
Yeah,
There's
right.
constant evolution. And, that's why, I'm always learning. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to upgrade myself, understanding what could work better. And that happens through, other teachers. It happens through mentors. It happens to students themselves. But it's a constant state of work. And if you don't do that, then, you're not as effective in your teaching.
Exactly. So who does a yogini go to for her expert advice?
So, I have teachers, I have a wonderful teacher who is based, he's always traveling. He's again from the Shivananda ashram, a very senior teacher there. So there's a cohort of teachers at the Shivananda ashram. So I'm always going back to that. That's where my roots are. Also, there are I spend a lot of time whenever I'm in I actually spend a lot of time in Bali every year. And why
Yeah,
Bali? Because it has a huge presence of international teachers, and we have a cohort there. So just attending classes, learning from them this time. I've been focusing a lot on breath and what we can do with our breath because even if you feel like you're not fit enough to do yoga, or if you're too old to do yoga, or you're too, you like going to the gym, working with the breath is something which is so powerful for everyone. So I've been really, really, really through other teachers, through my own research, working on the breath, and trying to see how we can, even from a scientific perspective, because post-COVID, there's been a lot of medical research too on the breath
right,
and
right,
how we can use the breath as a tool for even straightening our spine. If you start
right.
breathing correctly, you can actually cure just your back problems. And there's been so much of late, sleep apnea, huge concern.
Yeah,
Sleep
yeah,
apnea is something which is we're seeing with like every third person, insomnia, inability to sleep well. These are all like really lifestyle problems pervasive across the spectrum. So again, breath is something, techniques. Of course, we have pranayam techniques, which are great, but how do we evolve them into ways that are more palatable? So something that I'm working on now is to actually create soundtracks using music
right.
and breath together so that when you're doing this along with sound, it becomes it becomes much more fun and much
Yeah,
more powerful because
yeah,
you have sound journey attached to your breath journey. And even we do this now with headphones on, just the way that you're wearing headphones. So when you have headphones on, it feels as if it's really a three-dimensional immersive experience.
yeah.
So it becomes very, very powerful because you have the sound, you have the breath, you have all of this combined to one together, and that creates, really, really powerful effects with breath and sound combined together. So stuff like that, and again, using headphones such as the ones that you're wearing so that the sound is so close and it feels like it's, just more powerful.
I'm definitely going to invite you to one of our conclaves, and we should have some fun with you. I think if you have time, it'll be terrific to have you demonstrate this, how effective this whole system can be in just making you go to another place
Yes,
altogether. I think it would be
another
wonderful.
dimension,
Yeah.
and um it's amazing. It's amazing what comes out of it, like people are really able to release in just, they're this within minutes they're just releasing, whether it's through tears or, or sometimes just laughing or just it all comes out because it's so connected. The breath is so
Yeah.
intertwined and it's available for everyone, because what I was seeing with yoga, which of course I love, sometimes, so many people would come saying, I want to do yoga, but I don't feel like I have the body to do it. I have a back problem. I have this. What can I do? What can I do? I've always been such a big advocate of start with breathing, start with pranayam. That's available to everyone. Begin here because yoga is not just for the body, it's also for the mind. So begin here and slowly, slowly things will come into play. So this is something that, I've really been working on proponing, and it's a real deep experience.
Yeah.
Even in my yoga teaching, I said, listen, yes, you can lose weight. We do all of that stuff because that's such a big thing today. Everyone wants to just look better because of social media. They want to put everything on Instagram, all of that stuff, and that's also, again, it's a real, I think, an issue for modern day society. I'm really fear for the young boys and girls growing up today on how all this is going to affect their mental health. Another reason why we need so much more mental health intervention. But I really do believe that the way we work with our breath, it's such a powerful tool, such a powerful tool.
Sounds wonderful. So, I really see you evolving as, I mean, we have so many gurus, I'd love to see you as, one of those. I mean, and they're everywhere, no? I mean, the brand is now so big. I want to see Ira Trivedi as, one of the gurus that we look up to. Why
I
not?
think, I mean, I think what's kind of nicer in a way is, I'm actually connected to a lot of gurus because I go a lot to, so many of the ashrams, all of them, because most of the spiritual institutions today have begun to realize the importance of yoga. And while they
Yeah,
never really looked at physical hatha yoga as something important, now all of them are bringing in hatha yoga into their fold because they realize
yeah,
especially for the youth, it's a great way of now bringing the youth into spirituality. Is
right.
begin with hatha yoga. It's fun. People want to work out. People want to, get physically fit. And this is an experience into their inner world. When they do a physical practice of yoga, they begin to experience their inner world, and that will lead to something which is deep. So so I'm connected, but I think what's also kind of nice, and I respect that about the West, is that separating yoga from religion, you know, keeping it a-religious, I think is wonderful because it's not attached deeply to religion. I think there's some power in that. The yoga is a tool which you can use in your life, no matter what religion, what caste, what creed. And I feel like there's need for that. I feel like there's need for that.
Yeah, yoga is a spiritual rather than a religious.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah, it's fine, but you can still be Ma Ira Trivedi, no problem.
What about bringing in yoga in a more, in a way where it's more democratic and
Uh,
more, more reachable. Everyone can reach here. I'm a normal person who has used this as a tool to get better in my life. And I feel
yeah,
like
and
that's the powerful
I can
approach,
do that too. Yeah. So okay, we'll just call you who you are, Ira Trivedi. But we'll just follow more of what you do. But Ira, also I was wondering, there must be a lot of pressure on you to also become part of the industry. Are people do they tell you, oh, you should be on the screen, you should be in the movies?
I mean, sometimes,
I'm sure
sometimes,
every day.
no, no, no. But there is pressure for me to write for the industry more than
Uh,
there's for me to be on screen. It's for me to write, you know, which um which they'll say, okay, you've written all of these books, and you've done all this work. Can you somehow bring this into, because there's so much need for content. So I feel
yeah,
more
yeah,
than need for people on screen, which does happen sometimes. There's a lot of the pressure that, hey, listen, why don't you start writing now for screen, or why don't you do something for screen? And that I feel, there is some value to that, but there's not so much time, I struggle with that because I just feel like even for me, it's it's what the world demands, and in today's day and age, the world is just demanding more yoga. There's just
yeah.
so many more, especially post-COVID, so many people are just more serious about their health than they ever have been before because they've seen the effects of, of ill health on their own bodies, on people, and yoga has really a cure for a lot of it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I mean,
so,
if, yeah, if you look at COVID, it was all about the lungs. It was all about breathing at the end of the day,
yeah, it is.
And
Absolutely, absolutely. And
what else?
the funny part is even today when when I meet people almost on a day-to-day level, I say, hey, where are your lungs? Can you
Yeah,
all point to where the lungs are in their body? Most people don't know where their lungs are.
yeah, exactly.
Talking about educated
Yeah,
adults in working in top corporations, and 70% of them will not know where the lungs are in the body. So,
absolutely.
you
I think
know,
we've neglected the lungs for the longest time. There's been, we talk about
yeah,
the heart and the liver and the kidneys, but the lungs are sort of just, um, and increasingly with pollution post-COVID, I mean,
yeah.
that's where the
Pollution,
attention should
environmental
be.
pollution, right? With especially
Yeah,
with children, there's so many respiratory problems, so much
many,
asthma,
exactly.
sinus, sinus, all of it. So I feel like all of that is becoming a little problematic now, but I do feel that there is, yoga's simple practices hold such depth and can
Right.
provide such cures and the best preventive medicine. So I feel like, yeah, and that because of that, I feel like I just, I'm so there's always more to do in the world of yoga. And I'm
Right.
not getting too much time to focus on anything else, but just I'll have to use some yogic techniques to sleep less and find more time.
But I mean, sleep is so important as well, and yoga has
Yes.
taught us that as well, and the modern world has taught us. So, really, if I were to ask you, Ira, what are the uh, three top concerns that people come to you with? When they come to you and they say, I really want to change the way I live my life, or I want to change the way I am. What are the three top things that they're telling you? And what is usually, I mean, I understand what you tell them, but what is it that they want to tell, what they want to change?
I think on a physical level, a lot of a lot of a lot of neck and back problems, lower back and neck, huge. Every second, third person has lower back or neck, and really debilitating, really debilitating. It's not just, oh, I have a little neck pain. It's usually that I'm unable to go to work, once a month because my neck is hurting so much. I'm not able to sit down on a chair, for periods of time. It's like that. Also just because sedentary lifestyles, a lot of this is really due to sitting in chairs for long amounts of time, um, not enough spinal movement. Maybe you're walking, but there's just really not properly taking care of the spine. The second one is, especially for women, is PCOD, PCOS,
Yeah,
problems with the endocrine system, huge hormonal issues, huge, every second, third person. And in younger ages, that leads to PCOD, PCOS. When you're slightly older, that will lead to problems with birth. And that'll then lead to, infertility eventually. And then that will then lead to issues with menopause. Just menopause, we don't talk about it enough, but it can be quite a difficult stage. And then, it's just not talked about enough. We just don't have enough. It's just, yeah, we talk a lot about PCOD, PCOS. That's great. Not enough about menopause. So that's another big, a lot of coping with that, coping with the symptoms, the kind of symptoms that you see that are quite aggressive, quite difficult to deal with because of a lot of hormonal
yeah,
imbalances, which lead to a difficult in the perimenopause and early menopause, really early menopause for a lot of women, just because there's been a hormonal imbalance for so long. So I think it's just women and hormones, the hormonal health of women is something, and that's the reason that the underlying causes are change of lifestyle, huge changes of lifestyle. The way that we live our lives is very different than the way our first generation,
right,
that we're seeing this massive lifestyle change. And that means what we eat, how we live, how we travel, how we work. So
right.
that's led to a lot of hormonal imbalances. And I think the third is, of course, stress, just mental stress. This constant underlying stress. And this is beginning with young children. And you see this in people in their, you know, 12, 13, 14, stress because of exams, stress because of jobs, stress because of this. There's this constant, I feel, underlying stress. And a lot of that is just because it's continuously, this social media being thrown at us all the time. So you just want to achieve what's on screen, achieve what you're seeing. And there's this constant
Yeah.
need for, for achieving something or doing something or being someone. And I feel like that's tough. In the earlier days, and I feel like there was a disadvantage to that, but you were born and you kind of knew what you had to do, with your
Yeah.
life. Like our grandmothers, they were happy. They didn't talk about being stressed and lived, ripe old ages. They were born and they were content with what they had in their lives. But I think now there's so much confusion,
Yeah.
right? You see that in the people in their 20s. They want to try out 5 different jobs. They want to buy lots of different clothes. They want to eat lots of different food. There's so much, you're spoiled for choice, but it just leads to so much mental confusion as well,
Wonderful. We could go on and talk for hours, but obviously we can't. But I really do admire what you've done with yourself, and how you've sort of. I've seen you grown from being, a writer, successful writer, but also someone who's truly made yoga something that is achievable, accessible, and also admirable. I think in your own life, we've seen the kind of difference it's made. So it really is a pleasure to always talk to you and to see the way you've grown. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Cover. One last point that I want to make is that,
Yeah,
really what I'm seeing that I'm seeing my mission, come forth through
yeah,
whether it's writing or, all of us, there's some mission that we have in our lives, right?
yeah.
And whether we
And we
cover
should.
that, whatever that could be, I want to be
Yeah,
the best mother possible.
yeah,
I want to be the best daughter possible. That's my mission. And that gives me great fulfillment. For me, that mission is always been unraveling, slowly, slowly, slowly. And
yeah,
whether it's to my early novels or whether it's to my later work, there was always a sense of what we can do as women. Where
yeah,
can women, like, kind of, how do we empower women? What are the struggles of women? As a young girl, or whether it was through India and love, whether it was through marriage and sexuality, and now through yoga. I'm just seeing that yoga as a tool, especially when you start teaching yoga, it's so powerful. So one of the things that I'm really trying to do now is to train teachers and train women to become yoga teachers and to teach online through Zoom. So you can be a yoga teacher, learn for yourself and for your family, and then start teaching others and earn an income out of it. And you don't need to go to a yoga studio anymore. You can do it from the comfort of your home. You can turn on Zoom and you can teach someone else, and it's so effective. And so online yoga it's such a huge step. It's like the biggest thing that's happened to yoga since the formation of a yoga studio is that there's online yoga now. And yoga works very, very well online because fundamentally yoga is a self practice, but at the same time, you need some guidance.
you need
So having
guidance.
that, so that being on your own in your house, but yet having guidance and maybe a satsang, because it's a group class, has made it very, very powerful. So what I, really, really am working on now is to just create, of course, awareness of yoga, the simplicity of yoga. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Simple yoga can help you. And yoga is so simple that anyone can become a yoga teacher and you can start teaching others. And through
Right.
doing that, you can earn income for yourself. You can be at home, take care of your families, take care of your parents, your in-laws, your children, but at the same time, be able to earn an income every single day and use that to empower yourself
Yeah.
financially, emotionally, and otherwise. So really, I want that there should be a lot of women yoga teachers. Yoga till now in India has been dominated by men.
Well,
It's really been
yeah.
male dominated so far, but I feel now it's a time for women. If you look, we don't have any really very senior yoga teachers,
Oh,
women. If you
yeah.
look back, maybe there's Geeta Iyengar, who is Iyengar's daughter, BK
Yeah,
Iyengar's daughter. But we don't have many older women in their 60s and 70s who we said,
yeah,
wow, they've been doing yoga their whole
exactly.
lives.
Yeah, yeah,
And we don't have that because, you know, women were not doing yoga that much. And now there aren't people who are teachers for 50 years. You will find them, but they're rare. They're rare. So really, I hope that in 50 years, we have so many women who are, 80, 90 years old who've been teaching yoga for 50 years. I
super
really want that. I really want that women become the face of yoga in this country and not men.
wonderful.
It's a very
Great.
feminist stance on yoga. It's a very
And
feminist stance. But I just feel
and
like
much
the time
needed.
for the time for saffron clad men is over,
Yeah,
Now we have to be more progressive with yoga, and
yeah,
it should be led by women, and it should be women make much better yoga teachers than men. There was an entire Me Too movement in yoga as well, which has clearly shown that women
yeah.
are the better teachers. And I feel like we need to have more women yoga teachers, and that way more people will do yoga. Women yoga should be led by women,
Yeah, I think
done
women
by
should
women,
be the
everyone,
face
but
of
women in
yoga.
particular,
Yeah, I
100%. And it's
100%.
already happening. If you go to
Yeah,
yoga classes, earlier in the West, it was pretty female dominated. But now, even in India, we're seeing this. Yoga classes, I do retreats, and Cover, I'd love to have you one of the retreats. We'll invite you for the next one. We keep on doing them. You come to Rishikesh or anywhere, we'll extend an invitation to you. You're going to love it. You'll love the yoga retreats. I was going to say I'll invite you next time when we do an online, like an interesting session, which you'll love. But you come for the retreats because you'll like that even more. It's a really lovely experience, because we're doing
sounds
yoga
wonderful.
time. It's a lot of fun. So you choose
Great.
which one, because I do them very often, every
Yeah,
month or second month, there's some camp somewhere. But yeah, and there you'll see it's more women than men, a lot more women than men.
wonderful. It sounds terrific. Thank you so much, Ira, for speaking to
Thank you,
me, and
Kaveri. Thank you.
all the
Thank you for
very
your
best.
time. Thank you. Be in
All
touch.
the
Thank
best.
Thank
you.
you
I
so
have your
much,
Bye.
number.
everybody.
I'll connect you to next time we do a yoga retreat and you come to choose
So,
which one you want to come.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.